These are the top 3 things that will trigger an avoidant and trigger their fear and cause them to deactivate. Avoidant deactivation is when they take their feelings, they take their emotions, especially for their partner, and they bury them. They stuff them. They don't allow themselves to access their feelings. So here are the top 3 triggers for somebody who is dismissive avoidant or a fearful avoidant that leans dismissive. Number 3, conflict. This is a person that fears conflict, and they can associate even the slightest disagreement with conflict. Now, avoidants often had their feelings, they had their emotions dismissed as a child. If they showed a negative emotion, it was met with rejection. Sometimes it was outright reprimanded. The message was sent, your feelings, your emotions are not welcome here. So they learned that if they expressed themselves, especially if they expressed a negative emotion like hurt, pain, sadness, it was met with fierce rejection. So they learned to now associate disagreement with conflict, with rejection. They've learned that their feelings are an inconvenience to others. So everything can seem like it's going perfectly in the relationship, but as soon as a small disagreement arises, and it can be something so insignificant, this person can get triggered and shut down, go cold, and completely deactivate. And it doesn't take all that much for a severe avoidant. Number 2, commitment. Commitment is an absolutely huge trigger for somebody who is severely avoidant. That's because the avoidant has learned to associate commitment with abandonment, because it's an implied notion that when you commit to somebody, when you put an official label on a relationship, that you have to be vulnerable, you have to be emotionally available for this person. And that is scary. Go back to their childhood again. They were emotionally neglected by their parents or their caretakers. So what they learned is that the people you're supposed to rely on for your emotional needs, if you let that person in, they're going to reject you. They're going to abandon you. What they learned is that emotional closeness equals abandonment. And with commitment, there is implied closeness. So that commitment label, it seems suffocating to them. It seems frightening because now they have to be vulnerable with this person. They have to risk themselves. And if the avoidant had a very controlling parent, a parent that really was excessively involved in their life, making decisions in a non-healthy way, they can also associate commitment with just being suffocated, losing their independence to somebody who is ultimately going to reject and abandon them. The caveat is commitment is less scary for an avoidant when that commitment is with a partner who is also emotionally unavailable. That person's not emotionally available with them, so there's no threat of vulnerability. And the avoidant doesn't feel any kind of pressure to be emotionally available or vulnerable in return for the emotionally unavailable partner. But when they have a partner that is emotionally available, that is emotionally present, consistent, and loving with them, that commitment seems very, very scary. And when the partner asks for commitment labels, it can be enough to trigger the avoidant, cause them to shut down, and run away from the relationship altogether. And the number 1 trigger is emotional closeness, emotional intimacy. Again, this is going back to childhood when this person learned that if you rely on anybody for your emotional needs, they're going to reject you, abandon you, disappoint you. They're not going to be there for you. This is why the avoidant is able to show up early in the relationship, early in dating, and really seem like they're emotionally available and emotionally present, because those fears haven't been triggered yet. The early part of dating is the shared fantasy. It's a romance novel. It's a fairy tale. It's a movie. It's not real. They're swept up in the dopamine and they're letting all these bottled up emotions flow out because they're not afraid yet. But once emotional closeness begins to build and something happens that signifies to the avoidant that this is a real relationship with real emotional intimacy forming, it triggers every bit of fear in their body. Their entire nervous system is on fire with cortisol, the stress hormone. And because they have learned to suppress emotions, to run from them, not process them or reflect on them, They feel the sudden urge to run away from a good relationship and they don't know why. And these fears are specifically triggered when they have a loving, healthy partner that is growing close with them. Because that's the person they fear abandonment from. They fear opening their heart, losing control over their feelings, and falling in love with the person that's going to reject them. Because at the core, the avoidant feels like they are unlovable, that they're defective. They weren't given the love as a child, so they feel like there's something wrong with them, that they aren't lovable. And if this wonderful partner figures that out, they're going to reject and abandon the avoidant because, again, this partner will figure out that they are too good for the avoidant. So emotional closeness is absolutely the top trigger for somebody who's severely avoidant.